So if you didn't get it from my first video, I'm a little bit of a nerd, and I'm a little eccentric. But I'm going to talk to you guys today about tabletop gaming, like stuff like Pathfinder and Dungeons and Dragons and Warhammer 40,000 and Warhammer Fantasy, that kind of thing, and how it's changed my life. First off, so when I was younger, when I was actually in junior high and going into high school, I was really shy. I was fucking terrified of people. Interacting with other people was something I would avoid at pretty much any cost. I had 2 or 3 friends. That was good enough for me. Otherwise, I was a total introvert. You know, every day I'd go home from school, I'd sit down in my basement, and I'd play video games all day because I did not want to talk to anybody. In school, group projects I did on my own. I'd be like, hey, teacher, hate people, here's the project, give me a mark, please. And that's how I got through junior high, with like 2 or 3 people, not even 2 or 3, 2 people, 2 at most. I still hang out with them now. And that was it. Because I was a recluse. I was definitely an introvert in the extreme. And then I got into high school. I was in German class, and I was sitting next to this girl, and I was talking to her, which was already pretty weird, but she was really friendly. And I had this book on my desk, and it was for Warhammer 40,000, Dark Heresy. It was a rule book for their RPG game. When this guy in front of me turns around, and he's like, hey, have you ever played D&D before? And look at him like, who the hell are you, and why are you talking to me? But I said, no, I've heard of it, but I've never played it. No. He invited me to a group. He introduced himself. His name was, we're gonna call him Drake, and me and him, we started up a club. And through my experiences with Drake, through Dungeons and Dragons, I learned that interacting with people wasn't all that bad. I ended up liking it a little bit. The more I interacted with this group of people I didn't really know, the more comfortable I got with talking to strangers, to other people, the more comfortable I got in a social environment, and it really helped me break out of my shell. Confidence. So Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinders really got me to, what got me to break out of my shell, to really start opening up to people on a social level. And that was fantastic. It was like a whole new world because social interactions were totally foreign to me. But the more I was involved in them, the more I talked to people, the more I interacted with other people my own age or with the same kind of interests as me, the more I realized, holy shit, these people like me. I can make these people laugh. Holy crap, I'm awesome. It really helped me build a sense of confidence. Talking with people on a nearly a daily basis, and instead of sitting alone at lunch, I sat with this group. It was me, and it was Drake, and it was Rala, and it was Shio, and it was Gunsor, and it was Leclerc, and it was fucking fantastic. And I was in my element. I never knew it was my element, but I was there. And it introduced me to this idea that I could be a leader as well. That I could dungeon master. That was really the entry into learning that, hey, I'm awesome enough, I can be the boss. And that's how it started. And then it really started to introduce me to leadership as well. The next year, once Drake left, we had a DM who wasn't all that great. And then I took over after that. I started DMing. I started being a dungeon master. I am the DM, which was a totally different experience. Instead of being a player, instead of being a character in the story, I decided freaking everything, which was a lot to handle, but it was an experience. It was lots of fun. And then I took control of the club as well. I became the club's leader. Me and Vulcan Cakes, we were co-leaders of this club. We both had like our groups that we handled, and jointly we dealt with issues with the club. And through managing this club, through being a club leader, because of Dungeons and Dragons, because of tabletop gaming, I learned to really enjoy leadership. We had a couple difficult decisions we had to make about some players who were bringing a lot of negativity into the group because of how they've been acting outside of school and outside of the club. And unfortunately we had to remove them, but that kind of experience, it really sticks with you because it's the first time you have to make a difficult social decision as a leader of a group. And it really taught me the foundations of leadership. And I really appreciate that. I wouldn't be the person I am today if I hadn't learned those values. Before high school, I wasn't a very good writer. My mark in grade 9 here in Alberta, junior high is grade 7 to 9, and then high school is grade 10 to 12. But in grade 9, my final mark in English and writing was a 37, so it was abysmally awful. Once I started DMing, once I started game mastering and having to write these stories for my adventures to play through, my party to play through, it really kind of like clicked with this creative side of myself. And I started enjoying writing. I wrote, campaigns, I wrote stories, I drew up these dungeons. It was like there was a part of me that I was out of touch with, and being brought into Dungeons and Dragons, being brought into gaming, really brought that part of me out and let me connect with that creative side of myself that I was ignoring. I worked a lot of my drawing as well, because all these monsters, all these creatures that we fought in Dungeons and Dragons, they were fantastical, and I wanted to envision them, and I wanted to put that on paper. And Dungeons and Dragons did a lot for me. Pathfinder did a lot for me on a creative side of things. Like I said, I had a 37 in grade 9 English. When I graduated in grade 12, my English mark before the diploma was a 91. Like, if you'd told me in grade 9 that I was going to top the year, the last 8 years in writing in English, I would have called you a fucking liar. But it happened. And I attribute that success, at least in part, to tabletop gaming, to Pathfinder, to D&D. Also, as a dungeon master, it really helped me learn a sense of responsibility. Before these groups, my only responsibility was wake up in the morning and go to school and don't fail. Being part of this group, I had something I had to go to every week, which was it was an experience. It was something that I wasn't used to. Afterwards, when I became a DM, I had to write up these campaigns, I had to write up monster stat blocks, I had to keep track of what was happening to my players, I had to write up loot lists, I had to write up dungeons, I had to write up stories and NPC dialogue. And it taught me to prioritize work. It taught me to be responsible about what I was doing, about my workloads, about keeping on top of things. It taught me that I need to think about other people and not just myself. It really got me thinking about the group dynamic and on how to make everything enjoyable for everybody else, and that their fun was my responsibility. I wasn't there to kill players. I wasn't there to win. I was there to make sure that they had a fantastic time and have a good time while doing it. And finally, Dungeons and Dragons really gave me a lot of aspirations. I want to do something with writing. I want to get a teaching degree, actually. Partly because of the teacher who helped make the Dungeons and Dragons group a reality. He's kind of an inspiration to me. I want to go into teaching. I want to be an English teacher because of him. Because he's there for people like me. People who maybe aren't very confident in social environments, who avoid people, who are reclusive, people who don't like social interaction. And he made this haven for them. This group, this club, the Gamers Club. It was a place where we could go, where we knew we were accepted. It was a place where we could go and not feel judged or mocked or segregated from other people or intellectually disconnected from other people, because we were all on the same playing field. We were all there to have a good time. We're all there because we want to be that glorious hero who charges over the hill and slices the dragon's head off in a single blow. Did that once. We want to live in this fantastical world of our own creation. I want to be able to make that kind of a haven for people. I want to be able to reach out to people who were like me and show them that the world isn't as awful or disgusting a place as they think it is. that it might actually be worth going out of your cave and talking to people and interacting with people. Because Dungeons and Dragons, it changed my life. I was a totally different person before I joined that club. I mean, now I am a commissioned salesman. I talk to people for a living. Like, holy shit. If you told my younger self that your job is not only to talk to people, but to convince them to buy things they don't need, and your paycheck is dependent on that, I'd said, yeah, fuck that. No, not gonna happen. Then I would like flicked my mullet at you and I would have walked away. I had a mullet. That's how bad things were. But yeah. If you've never played Dungeons and Dragons before, if you've never played Pathfinder before, if you've never played any kind of tabletop before, I really recommend that you do. Find a group of people that you know, or that you'd like to know, or you think have similar interests to you that do play this kind of thing, and just sit down with them. More than anything, Dungeons and Dragons, Pathfinder, any kind of tabletop RPG, it's just an excuse to have fun. And it's an excuse to break out of your shell.